the Columbian newspaper. Thornton F. McElroy is writing at his desk, while his assistant, J.W. Wiley, is setting type for the paper. Colonel Michael T. Simmons, the founder of Newmarket, now Tumwater, drops in for a chat upon his return from a trip to Portland.
Yours has certainly got the town buzzing.
Well, it doesn't take much to get them buzzing, but to get them to do something, now that's something else again. Everybody wants us to have a territorial government of our own, but everybody's too busy to do something about it.
Well, what can they do? How do we get any action out of Congress? They're quick enough to vote appropriation, almost $250,000 last session. We try to get any constructive action out of them or something else.
Wiley, you're as bad as all the rest. What can we do? What can we do? Well, man alive, we can build a fire under General Lane and keep it so hot that he'll pester the President and Congress into getting us what we want.
Good baby. Here comes Colonel Simmons. Just back from Portland. Hi, Colonel.
Hey, Wiley, how are you? Hey,
What's the news in the big city?
Hey, Mac.
How long did it take you to get home?
Oh, well, you know, I suppose you're referring to Newmarket as the big city. You know, what I can't figure out is how two smart men like you passed up Newmarket and started this newspaper in this Indian-infested, flea-bitten community.
Oh, wait a minute, Colonel. This undoubtedly is going to be the capital of the new territory of Columbia. Why, it's destined to be the Puget Sound terminus of the railroad when it comes down the Columbia River through Portland. Why, it could well be the Puget Sound metropolis, if not for the entire West Coast. It's got everything, literally everything.
Come on. Now, I didn't mean to wound any local pride, and that's why I hurried over here just as soon as I got one of Lizzie's meals inside of me. Now, news arrived in Portland just 48 days out of New York that the Whigs have nominated General Winfield Scott for president.
Oh, they couldn't be that dumb. You mean they pass up a man like Webster, one of the great men this country's ever produced, to nominate Scott? What has he ever done? President Fillmore would be better than Scott.
Take it easy, Mac. After all, the general is tremendously popular, you know.
Oh, is this a personality contest? Are we trying to get ability, brains, courage, and integrity into the presidency? With Clay dead, Webster's the brains of the party. Oh, he might drink a little bit too much.
He does that.
But drunk, he's better than anyone else in the party sober. Well, who the Democrats nominate? Buchanan or General Cass?
Oh, neither. Cass, Buchanan, Douglas, and Morrissey had that convention deadlocked until the 48th ballot, and they nominated Franklin Pierce.
Pierce?
Yeah.
Who the hell is Pierce?
That's what everybody was asking. You know, it seems that he's a senator from New Hampshire. He was a brigadier general under Scott. According to an article by that author, that novelist Hawthorne, who went to college with him, Hawthorne says he's handsome.
Oh, so now it's a beauty contest. Well, what's the idea the women can't vote?
That's right, they never will.
But that does give me a great idea. I'll take the height off of him. I'll call him Pretty Boy Pierce.
Well, you know, just a minute ago, you were damning the Whigs for nominating Scott. Now you want to take the height off of Pierce. You know, next he's going to be one to support that Free Soil Party ticket. Now, they nominated John P. Hale. And they adopted as their platform, no more slave states, no more slave territories, no more nationalized slavery, and no more national legislation for the extradition of slaves.
Say, that's certainly taking a crack at the slave law.
You bet it is.
I'd vote that platform myself.
I could, too.
You know, I could too, but I don't think they've got much of a chance against the two old parties. Though unless the Whigs get a hold of an issue pretty soon and take a stand on slavery, it could cease to be a party. Though I don't think that they've got much of a chance, and the other thing is, those of us who live in territories don't have any vote for president anyway. Our main concern is getting cut loose from the Oregon apron strings and getting a state of our own. Heard anything new about our resolution asking Congress to create a territory of Columbia?
Well, the boys down along the Cowlitz and in Jackson Prairie seem to think that we ought to have another convention, and they suggested Monticello.
Yeah.
Now, I told them there wasn't nothing we could do at Monticello that we didn't do at Cowlitz Landing last year. But they seem to think we ought to have another convention and keep at it until we get a resolution to this issue.
Speaking of that, did you see McElroy's editorial in this week's Columbian?
I sure have. I didn't have time to read a thing since I got back from Portland. Let's see. Where's it? Okay. I'll tell you what, Mac, that's pretty good. Really says it. Now, I'll tell you, I'd give a farm if I did right like that, Mac.
Thank you, Colonel. You can be sure that Columbian is going to keep at this thing until we get results. You know, those boys south of the Columbia River think we ought to be proud to be Oregonians. But for my money, I'm getting tired of being a stepchild of the Willamette Valley. We're going to stand on our own 2 feet. There's more of a future here in Puget Sound than there is down there in that valley. You know, they're against just about every kind of separation. Like we're supposed to be some kind of colony, I suppose. You know, some are beginning to see the light. Down there in Oregon City and Portland, men like Berryman Jennings.
Oh, speaking of Jennings, I saw him when I was in Portland.
Yeah.
And he was asking me how many Masons we had up this way. I told him I didn't rightly know, but I knew the 2 of you were. And then Ira Ward down home, Clark, who runs the hotel at Cowlitz Landing, is a member of my lodge, Willamette number 2.
See, there's Page, Nick Dellin,
Okay.
Skidmore, and Captain Hale.
You know, that's enough to start a Masonic Lodge. You know what we'll do? We'll print an announcement in this Saturday's Columbia, asking every Mason who's interested in starting a Masonic Lodge to meet here in this office a week from Saturday evening.
Well, I sure hope you get more response out of that ad of yours than I did mine last week, asking for 40 to 50 axemen and 2 sawyers for my shingle mill. Yeah, and the paper got me two axemen and 1 fellow that says he's a sawyer. Oh.
You be around a week from Saturday night, you'll see what kind of results we get.
Okay, I'll be here.
The meeting is in response to the ad that was put in the paper calling on all Masons to meet if they were interested in forming a new lodge. The date is now the latter part of October, 1852.
Brethren, for such I am satisfied that you all are, we are met here to consider whether we'd like to start a Masonic Lodge in Olympia.
Where is Captain Hale?
I have a message from the captain, and he does regret his inability to be here. He thinks we should form a lodge, but he's just a little reluctant to commit with his own lodge back in Maine. You've all heard him talk about King David's Lodge number 62. You'd think there wasn't another lodge in the country anywhere. He does suggest that if we form a lodge, we ask for the name King David.
Cap's a little cracked on that subject. I think a lodge ought to be named after the town that it's in.
You know, it seems to me that we've got the wagon before the oxen here. We need to decide if we're going to have a lodge first and then where.
Wait a minute. You couldn't possibly be considering Newmarket. It's not going anywhere, but Olympia's going places. Stores opening, the sawmills starting up, trade with California booming, schoolhouse built, the first newspaper north of the Columbia River.
Judge, it's all right with me. It's okay. It's all right. If Olympia wants to have a lodge, it's okay with me.
Colonel, if you want peace and harmony to prevail around here, you better not call Mac Judge. He may be a justice of the peace, but he sure don't like that name Judge.
I don't know how you fellas expect this town to grow when you got a 6 mil levy on top of a $1 poll tax.
Brethren, the question before the meeting is, should we start a Masonic Lodge in Olympia?
Well, Brother McElroy, it sounds like a good idea to me. But most of us would be doing good to work our way into a lodge. We need officers that know the work of the lodge.
Well, Wiley and I know the work.
Yeah.
And if there isn't anyone else who's proficient, it wouldn't take us long to whip them into line.
No doubt about you being able to whip men in line. Say, what about that new fella that opened up the store?
Oh, you mean George Barner?
That's
No, I don't believe he is. I never saw any signs of it. You know? Oh, that reminds me. Clark, who runs that hotel down at Cowlitz Landing, said that he'd join here if we start a lodge up here. He's a member of my lodge in Portland.
How do we go about starting a lodge?
Well, it's easy now since the lodge at Oregon City, the one in Portland, and the other one at Lafayette organized the Grand Lodge of Oregon about a year ago now. We just petitioned the Grand Master of that Grand Lodge, Berriman Jennings, for dispensation to start a lodge. It'll take 7 of us. And a recommendation from the nearest lodge, which I think is, it's Brother Simmons' Lodge down in Portland. And then, if we're doing all right, the dispensation will authorize us to hold meetings until Grand Lodge meets, and then it will grant us a charter.
How much territory does that Oregon Grand Lodge have jurisdiction over?
Well, everything north of California, from the summit of the Rocky Mountains to Pacific Ocean.
Where did those 3 lodges you mentioned get their charter?
The lodge at Oregon City from the Grand Lodge of Missouri, and the lodge at Portland and the one at Lafayette from the Grand Lodge of California.
Well, there's 7 of us here. I vote to start a lodge.
That's a good, absolutely.
Here. The sentiment seems to be, let's see a show of hands. Sentiment is unanimous. I thought it would be. I've got a petition already made out for a lodge in Olympia to be known as Olympia Lodge. All we need to do is put in the names of the officers.
Are you sure you haven't got that filled in too?
Just a minute, Colonel Simmons. This undoubtedly is going to be the lodge, first lodge in the territory, which will be later the state of Columbia. Now, mark my words on that one.
Yeah. The master must know the word, and in this case, I think you probably have to teach the other officers too. I think McElroy ought to be the work master.
I agree.
Since it is your wish that I serve you as your worshipful master, put my name down there in that position. I want you fellows to know how very appreciative I am of this high honor. Now, who will we have for our senior warden?
Well, it seems to me that Colonel Simmons here is about as well thought of in Olympia and Nisqually precincts as anybody. I like to see him as senior warden.
I think so too. For anybody that knows him, for all teasing and joking, anybody that knows him knows he's all man. Why, George Washington Bush was telling me the other day how they wasn't going to allow him to stay down in the Willamette Valley. They didn't want any black men down there. The whole park. And the colonel said, "To hell with them. We'll keep on going until we find a place for Bush to take up his claim with the rest."
Yeah, well, I'm for him. They don't make him any better than
That's right.
Well, I'll tell you, thank you very much, gentlemen. Mention's been made of George Washington Bush, and I simply want to say that he's the whitest man I know. You've been out to his place on the prairie, and you've seen the work that he's done there. Why, I've never seen such crops. The corn and the wheat and the beans, the potatoes and pumpkins and the squash, what have you. It's all there. He's doing a fantastic job. Well, let's get back to the matter at hand. I'm not the man to be your senior warden. And I'll tell you why. I'm not an educated man. My learning didn't come from any school. Now, I can read and write some, but I do neither of them well. Okay? I am proud to be a member of the Masonic fraternity. And according to the installation ceremony, as I heard it down in Portland, in the absence of a worshipful master, the senior warden must rule and govern the lodge. Okay? Now, you need a man in that office. You need a man who, next to Brother McElroy, is the most skilled in the work. And that man, from what I've heard, is Brother Wiley. Besides, the two of them working here together on paper, can work things out between them.
Well, I share your high regard of Colonel Simmons. Seems to me that he is right in what he says. Brother Wiley is the better equipped to take over government of the lodge should anything happen to me. Now, lodge officers are always elected by secret ballot without any nomination. We'll proceed to elect our senior warden in that fashion. Just mark the ballot for the person that you'd like to have as your senior warden.
They're running out all the time. Remember I writing those letters?
They tough on the front here.
Oh, gotcha.
All right. Ballots in? All right. Brother Wiley. Simmons. Wiley. Simmons, Wiley, and Wiley.
Hey, congratulations.
By your ballot, you've elected J.W. Wiley to serve as our senior warden in the lodge under dispensation. I'll write his name in there. Now, who will we have for our junior warden?
The colonel begged off on senior warden, and I thought there was something to what he said. But when it comes to junior warden, I don't believe any of the rest of us know any more about the work than anybody else. And I think Colonel Simmons can get it as quick and as good as anybody. When it comes to learning things quick, he's a whiz. He talks with those Indians like he'd been raised among them. I like Colonel Simmons for junior warden.
While we elected our senior warden by secret ballot, seems like we're all in accord of having Michael T. Simmons serve as our junior warden. And I'll announce him as elected by acclamation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Now, all we'll need to do is fill in the place for the signatures.
I'll sign that. You got all that signed? Yeah, yes, all right.
We'll need 7 of us.
Well, I'll take this, I'm leaving for Cowlitz in the morning, and I'll take this petition with me down to the Cowlitz. Now, after a meeting with our Thurston County delegates to the convention down there, Brother Hale and I will go up the river to Portland for a meeting of Willamette Lodge number 2. And we'll get them as going on record as being favorable to us having a lodge here.
Good.
Okay?
Good.
And then we'll take it on to the Grand Master.
Well, you might as well take along some of the latest editions of the Columbian. We state the case for freedom from the oppression of the Willamette Valley about as strongly as it can be made.
Freedom of expression, a pretty strong word, Nick. I've been reading about the people who really have something to kick about. Say, any of you fellows see this paper, The National Era?
No.
George Washington Bush takes it. He let me have the copies that have a story run in them called Uncle Tom's Cabin. Took them back the other day. You ought to borrow them and read them. Some chapters had me damn near crying, others had me fighting.
It was published in book form this summer, you know, and the last paper say it's selling faster than any book has ever sold before.
And it was written by a woman, too.
Well, the purpose for which this meeting seemingly has been accomplished, we might as well disperse. By the way, Colonel Simmons, would you mind taking this letter with you down to Portland, or put it on any ship that you find in the Columbia River sailing for San Francisco?
Look at another fat letter from Pittsfield, Illinois. Now, you know, if you'd write as persuasive letters to this wife of yours as you do these editorials, you'd have her out here before this.
Well, I think that letter to my wife ought to do it.
Well, I hope so. You need it.
And represents the first Masonic meeting of Olympia Lodge number 5, Ancient Free and Accepted Masons of Oregon, jurisdiction. Now, Olympia Lodge number 1, Free and Accepted Masons of Washington. The date now is December 11, 1852.
Over 7:30. Since we're all here a little bit early, we can discuss some things informally before the meeting begins.
Well, Brother Ward, my partner, regrets his inability to be here tonight, but illness in his family has made that impossible. I do have with me, however, Brother F.A. Clark, and he's known to most of you as that host of that very popular hotel down at Cowlitz Landing. Brother Clark and I attended that convention in Monticello last month.
Brother Skidmore's family advises me that he's not yet returned from a trip to Seattle, although he was expected back early this afternoon. Matter of fact, one of the boys is waiting over at Backwoods Ferry across the Nisqually with a fresh horse, so he can get back here at the earliest possible moment. We do, however, have with us Captain Hale of King David's Lodge number 62 in May.
Well, Captain Hale has said that he's interested in debiting and then joining our lodge. And I will appoint him Secretary Pro Tem. I'll appoint Brother Dillon as Treasurer, Brother Ward as Senior Deacon, Brother Smith Hayes as our Tyler. Now, Brother Wiley Wiley, have you and Brother Dellin gotten together on the matter of bylaws?
Yes, we have, Mac. We're gonna suggest that we adopt the bylaws of Willamette number 2 insofar as they are applicable to us, with meetings to be held on the first and third Saturday night of each month.
Why Saturday night?
Because we can sleep late on Sunday morning.
Well, I was just wondering, one night's as good as another to me.
You may be doing your Sunday morning sleeping in church before long. I understand the Methodists are sending a missionary our way now, Reverend Close. Seems he's a Mason, too.
Cap, you seem to hear about things faster than these two newspaper men we've got here. Where did you hear about this Methodist missionary?
Oh, that young lawyer, Dan Bigelow.
Oh.
He's a Methodist, too. Seems somebody rid him from where he could sit. Seems that Methodists are thicker than trees down here in that Willamette Valley.
Well, when a church comes in, Nick Dellin gets out. I've got me a nice quiet spot picked out down on the Men's Bay for my next one. Not that I have anything against churches, you understand. They're just a sign that a place is getting too crowded for comfort.
Yes.
Well, what kind of a report will you have, Brother Simmons, on refreshments?
Oh, I've got
As you know, as I explained to you, that falls within the province of the junior warrior.
Well, yes, it does. I've got great news for you, sir. Ed Sylvester, though not a Mason, has a very high regard for the fraternity. He's invited us all to repair down to the Olympia house following our meeting for a banquet as his guests. Now, everybody that comes away from there sings the praises of that Chinese cook of his who used to be with the American Council at Canton. Okay, but now more than that, Sylvester has told me that he's going to give us 2 choice lots whenever we get ready to build.
Sylvester is a very public-spirited man. He's giving an acre for a park and 12 acres for the territorial capital, if Olympia becomes the territorial capital.
Will the Democratic victory in the election of Pierce make any difference so far as our becoming a territory is concerned?
I think Clark has the answer to that.
I don't think so. I spoke with General Lane, our delegate to Congress, when he was home, and he said that the resolution of the College Landing Convention was submitted to the House Committee on Territories on December 30th, 1851, but no action was taken on it. He left about 2 months ago, before the Monticello Convention, and expects to be back in Washington when Congress convenes on December the 6th. He has a promise from Senator Douglas of Illinois, the little giant, they call him, that a bill will be filed covering our desires within days after Congress meets. There does not appear to be any objection to a new territory, but there does appear to be some concern over the choice name of Columbia, over fear that it may be confused with the District of Columbia.
Does General Lane have any idea who might be appointed the territorial governor?
That, of course, is up to the president. There's little doubt that it would have been Sam Thurston had he lived. He explained to me that we're not aware of the great furor that's been raised in the North because of the slavery issue. This book, Uncle Tom's Cabin, has stirred up the North like nothing else before. Incidentally, our friend Simmons here doesn't pull his punches whenever he gets to arguing that question.
That's a fact. Boy, I feel very strongly about that, especially since Bush came west with our train. Now, you fellows all know his story, but let me tell you something more. This has been a great year in Olympia. We have new schools, we've got new stores, new mills, and a new school almost built. Almost a boom. Yes, almost a boom. Okay. But it has been a bad year on the Overland Trail for the immigrants. They've had heat, cholera, and Indian attacks. Now, I saw a train arrive in Puget Sound last month in pitiful condition. It had to eat the grain meant for their seed. They were cracking the whips on the skeletons of gold horses and cattle for fear if they lay down, they wouldn't get up again. Okay? Sure. Those tattered men had a few dollars in their pockets, and they would have given all they had to George Bush for a pittance of his plenty. Yeah. They'd have given everything they had to get new life started, a new country. He could have made himself a fortune.
Oh, but he could.
But he gave his fortune away. He gave them everything they needed, and he didn't collect a dollar.
You know, I hate to interrupt you, Colonel Simmons, but there's one thing that I insist on, and that is that meetings must start on time. Brethren, the hour of 7:30 is at hand. This is the hour that will be celebrated for years to come. The members will be closed. The officers, repair to your stations and places.
The fourth and final act shows the brethren seated at the Olympia House. They have just completed refreshments of Olympia oyster stew, provided by their gracious host, Edmund Sylvester, following their first meeting as a chartered lodge. The date is now July 2nd, 1853.
Brethren, as your junior warden, it's my privilege to preside over this feast of reason and flow of soul. And I don't need to remind any of you that this is indeed a historic day. We have just had our first meeting as a chartered lodge and raised to the sublime degree of a Master Mason our host, Brother Edmund Sylvester. And I'd be remiss if we didn't congratulate him on this grand anniversary. Thank you. Now, not only is he our host this evening, but even before he applied for the degrees of Masonry, he had given us 2 choice lots upon which our temple will soon be erected. Brethren, I present to you the founder of Olympia and our newest Master Mason.
This has been an evening I will never forget. Back in Maine, when I was a youngster on a fishing boat, the captain was a Mason. He was the kind of man that I wanted to be, and I decided back then, if I ever got the chance, I was going to be a Mason. It's been a rough and rugged road in every truth. I'm very happy, but here I am, very happy and delighted to have you as my guest this evening. Masonry is concerned with the building of temples not made with hands. But I'm very sure that Masons will play a vital part in the building of this city and territory. In fact, one need only to look around at this group gathered here this evening to realize that here are, in truth, the pillars of an empire. You'll be interested to know that it was a Mason, Colonel I.N. Evie from up on Whidbey Island, who suggested the name Olympia. And I conclude by quoting a poem he composed when he dedicated the little city on my late partner Levi Smith's claim 2 years ago. Afar their crystal summit rise like gems against the sunset skies, while far below the shadowy mist in waves of pearl and amethyst, round somber fir and stately pine, its dewy jeweled fingers twine. Olympia's gods might view with grace, nor scorn so fair a dwelling place. And so, to so fair a dwelling place, I welcome you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Sylvester. And I'm sure that you can't be as happy to have us here tonight as we are to be your guests. And that Chinese cook of yours has done himself proud again tonight. Now, we have with us 2 new members just elected this evening to be members of Olympia Lodge number 5 by affiliation. One of them we put to work the first time he visited our lodge as Secretary Pro Tem. Now, back in the States, Methodist missionaries have a habit of moving around quite frequently. Right? So we sure hope that Reverend Brother Ben Close is with us a long time, Brother Close.
As Colonel Simmons has said, we Methodist missionaries do travel a lot, and they say we gotta know more. Brother and I am really happy to be here tonight to help in the organization of a new lodge and a new church. You see, we missionaries don't actually stay with the church after it's built. We come in and get the organization started, and then the regular pastor comes in and takes over where we left off. But I am happy to be here on this night to witness the institution of 2 of the greatest forces in any community, a new church and a new law.
Another brother elected this evening, like Brother Sylvester, is from Maine. And I refer to Captain Lafayette Balch, captain of the brig, George Emery, who's taken a claim up near Stilcombe.
one of the great cities on the Puget Sound, possibly the terminus of the Transcontinental Railroad. In a year, we will have enough Masons to form our own lodge. And when this happens, I'm sure that we will have the full cooperation of Olympia No. 5.
Indeed you will, Captain Balch. Now, our first candidate was Benjamin F. Yantis, and tonight he was elected as your senior warden. It was just a little over 3 months ago that he was made a Master Mason, and he now can confer any of the degrees and knows all the lectures, and he's well qualified for the position to which you've elevated him this evening. We should indeed have a word for him.
Well, I wished I was as confident of my ability to fill the position of senior warden as Colonel Simmons seems to be. I do, however, appreciate the honor and will endeavor to justify your confidence in me. The distinction of being first really ought to be shared with Colonel Benjamin F. Shaw. For not only are our first names and initials identical, but we were initiated on February 5th, passed on March 5th, and raised on April 2nd. I wish we could be known as the first candidates instead of always giving me the honor of being first.
Your brother Yantis' thoughtfulness and modesty does him real credit. Our second candidate, as he mentioned, is Colonel Shaw. And Ben is one of my oldest and closest friends. He came west with our train in 1845 as interpreter, and I've never known a white man to master Indian dialects so well and speak them so fluently. We'll be indeed pleased to hear from you, Ben.
I may be able to speak enough another garden book. A crowd like this scares me to death. I'll just say I'm happy to be here.
I didn't think we'd get a word from Ben. Speech out of him. Now, I know that you're all anxious to hear from our wonderful master, but there are just 2 or 3 others that I want to introduce to you tonight. One of them is Lieutenant William F. Slaughter of the 4th Infantry United States Army. Lieutenant Slaughter is not a member of our lodge yet. He has his membership in Fort Huron, Michigan. Now, he's visited with us quite frequently and has he's indicated that as soon as his demit arrives, he will petition for affiliation. He's a West Point man. He's got a fine record in the Mexican War, and he's well liked by military and civilian. Lieutenant Slaughter.
My brothers, I've been in the Northwest now for 2 years. Last year at Fort Vancouver, this year at Fort Steilacoom, and I love it. A soldier goes where he is told. But I hope that I may continue in this Puget Sound country for a long time. And when I retire, I'll come back here to spend the rest of my life. I share Brother Balch's enthusiasm for Steilacoom, and I am sure that we can soon have a lodge there. We have 7 or 8 Masons at the fort now. I'm happy to have been in this memorable meeting and look forward to joining your lodge, or at least putting in my petition for affiliation.
We're glad to have you, Lieutenant Slaughter. And we're all watching with great interest the progress in the clearing of the land where before long our temple will soon be erected. Now, the brother who's responsible for that action and that work is Cortland Etheridge, who is an entered apprentice Mason, along with the other entered apprentices, have joined us for this refreshment hour.
Well, the clearing has been going real slow. Some of those stumps are over 12 feet in diameter, and they're real hard to get out. Levi Ford probably knows more about the clearing than I do, and he's another entered apprentice. But I've drawn the plans up for a 2-story building with the stairs on the outside. We could use that first floor as a store or possibly as a meeting place. It might possibly be a place where the legislature can meet when they convene here. Right now, there's no place else that they could possibly meet. The don't look for any building to be completed before next spring. Brother Ford tells me it's going to be at least December before the clearing is even done. Now, you can't burn right now because it's too hot. July and August, we try to burn, going to get away from it, and we'll have fire. However, if we're going to build a building the size that we want, and with those things in it that we need, it's going to cost us over $2,000. And we don't even have half of that raised at this time.
Well, you and Brother Ford push the clearing and the building, brothers, and we'll get the money together sometime.
You bet.
Right?
Here.
By the way, how does the Treasury stand, Brother Ira?
Well, we had the report of the auditing committee at the last meeting on June the 4th. There wasn't any meeting on the third Saturday because the Grand Lodge down in Oregon City was in session. At that time, we had received $310. We paid out $124 and had $186 left in the treasury.
Hey, that's good.
But we voted that night to give our worshipful master $100 for his expenses down in Oregon City for the Grand Lodge. And that left us with $86. But I collected $24 in dues this evening. So that makes $110.
Brethren, this is the 18th meeting of our lodge in less than 7 months, since December 11th. What Worshipful Brother Thornton F. McElroy has so frequently told us was the first meeting of a Masonic Lodge north of the Columbia River. In fact, what has become the first meeting of a Masonic Lodge in what is now Washington Territory. Brother McElroy hasn't missed a meeting. He's allowed no landmark to be infringed upon or removed. He's made us become proficient. Okay, or at least reasonably so. I'll grant you that. Last month, he represented our lodge at the Oregon Grand Lodge and came back to Olympia with the charter of Olympia Lodge Number 5, Ancient Free and Accepted Masons of Oregon. Brethren, I give you our worshipful master, Thornton F. McElroy.
Brother-in-law, tonight we met for the first time as a chartered lodge. My memory runs back to another evening not 7 months ago, and on December the 12th, 1852, we met for the first time as in lodge dispensation. It was, as Colonel Simmons said, a meeting that made history. But much has happened since. Back in the States, Franklin Pierce had been elected President of the United States, though word of that had not yet reached us. A bill was introduced in Congress creating a territory of Columbia just 5 days before our meeting. That bill was amended, and on March 2nd, just 4 months ago, it passed Congress. When President Fillmore signed it, as perhaps his last official act in office, we became the territory of Washington. President Pierce has appointed Major Isaac Stevens of the U.S. Engineers as the first territorial governor. I have received a letter from Major Stevens that indicates to me that he will be truly a great governor. His arrival will be delayed until probably November, as he uses the good weather of the summer months for exploration and survey of a railroad from the headwaters of the upper Mississippi to Puget Sound. Railroad, my brethren, think of what that means. He's also informed me there will be no delay in organization of the government, as Colonel J. Patton Anderson, our U.S. Marshal, will at once take the census preliminary for a proclamation calling for an election of a territorial legislature. He's also told me in that letter that $20,000 has been appropriated and placed in his hands to construct the military roads from Fort Walla Walla to Puget Sound early enough for next year's immigration. Did you hear those figures, my brethren? $20,000. Ours is indeed indeed a generous government. All this has given a gallant, dashing, sparkling, and ponderous momentum to the march and swaggers of progress. During our dependence upon the cold charities of Oregon, we must as weak and small and infants creep. But now, no longer in the hands of go-betweens, we are a people within ourselves. Progress is our watchword. Our destiny is in the keeping of God, the national government, and our own destiny.
Here, here, here.
Oh, I must admit that my Scotch blood boiled at some of the high prices we've had to pay for our lodge room furnishing. We've been using temporarily in our meeting room until our lodge hall is built. Imagine $22.80 for 19.5 yards of carpeting. That's more than $1 a yard. Back in the States, we could have bought the same carpeting for 3 yards for $1. But it is good carpeting. It ought to last for years. The $9 that we paid Barner for a half a dozen chairs is close to robbery. Yet on the other hand, the stove that we bought from Basin and Brand for $14 represents the actual cost to them. Yeah. The stovepipe that we paid $6 for over at Kendall's was, to me, a little bit high. Now, our lodge room furniture, of which we are justly proud, was made for us by James Taylor, who was not a Mason, and he only charged us $33.78. That includes the altar, the stands for the candles, and the pedestals at the east and the west and the south. We're looking forward to a great future here in Olympia and the Northwest. Our Masonic history has been brief but glorious. Less than a year ago, Brother Simmons, Brothers Wiley, and I discussed for the first time the possibility of starting a Masonic Lodge. 7 months ago, 7 of us met for our first meeting. Tonight, Brother Sylvester is the fourth Master Mason that we have made. We've also acquired 6 members by affiliation, bringing our total membership to 17. And I believe that before we celebrate the occasion of our first anniversary, our membership will total 25. Now, in addition, we have 3 entered apprentices, and in total, we have conferred 15 degrees. And we have had many, many visitors to our lodge. All this leads me to believe that this is truly a Masonic oasis in the great Northwest. I have no doubt that the population in western Washington totals 2,000. If we can project that population 100 years into the future, I have no doubt that there will be 1 million for every 1,000 we have today. I look forward to a great metropolis for the city of Olympia, with smaller but thriving cities of Steilacoom, Seattle. Well, remember, they already have a steam sawmill. And there will be other smaller cities dotting the shoreline of Puget Sound. I look forward to a day when there will be 200 Masonic lodges west of the Cascade. Masons, my brethren, will promote by the force of ideals and the objects of Masonry the future as they have in the past. Orderly government, public education, and a recognition that God is the supreme architect of the universe. When others in the future look back 100 or more years before to our small beginnings of today, I have no doubt but what they will point with pride at every man sitting at this board. Brethren, we have a rendezvous with destiny. We will not waver, and we cannot escape it.
Brother, well, I have sense enough to know that our worshipful master is indeed climaxed our evening, but let's have benediction by brother.
Supreme Architect of the universe, we are now about to separate. Accept our humble praises and the gratitude of our hearts for the many mercies and blessings thy bountiful goodness has conferred upon us. Pardon, we beseech thee, whatever thou hast seen amiss in us, and continue to us thy present protection and blessing. May all our irregular passions be subdued, and may we daily increase in faith, hope, and charity, more especially in that charity which is the bond of peace and the perfection of every virtue. May we practice thy precepts, that we may gain the fulfillment of thy promises, and gain an entrance through the gates into the temple and city of our God. Amen.
So ordered it be. Playing the music this evening.